Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise. On Monday, the 15th of May, Michael Pintard was sworn in as the new Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture. Today, he gets to sit with us to discuss his new portfolio, and of course, we're very excited to have him. Good morning, Minister Pintard, and welcome to Bahamas at Sunrise.
It's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
It is certainly a joy to have you with us. It has been an interesting election season, and of course, everybody always looks to you post-election because, of course, you're so known for producing excellent plays that take us back over what we've experienced as a country and kind of brings us together after it's all done. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get that from you this time because you've got a full ministry portfolio, and that's what we really wanted to talk about today. Just what is it that you hope to bring to this significant post of youth, sports and culture?
Well, several things. I'm a cultural artist for many years, and certainly understand the challenges that artisans have been facing over the years. So I certainly intend to forge an even more intimate relationship with the creative industries community. The creative industries internationally is really one of the fastest growing segment of many national economies, and the Bahamas has unfortunately not taken advantage of it in the way that we have the capacity to do so. And so at least one of the functions would be to help monetize the products that we create, the talent that we have, so that we can make culture one of the #1 exports of the Bahamas. On the youth side, I think a part of the focus has to be outreach, meaning we certainly have very talented persons in the youth department. We have many organizations, faith-based youth organizations, as well as others, who have for years been carrying out powerful work in the community, but really insufficiently. Many of the hotspot areas in New Providence and elsewhere in the Bahamas require dynamic young people engaging their counterparts who may be involved in ill-advised behavior. And so a part of our focus is how do we take the wonderful programming that we've designed over the years and put it directly in the community so that we could successfully compete for the minds and hearts of our young people who are misdirected, some of them. And so that's a part of what we're going to focus on. How do we penetrate the various communities with positive programming? How do we facilitate organizations that already have positive programming? How do we take back areas that have been surrendered to elements that's not acting in their best interest or our best interest? And then in terms of sports, we will continue the tradition really of bringing international events here, working more closely with the Ministry of Tourism. And one of the particular focus will be how do we provide the right infrastructure for our junior athletes, many of whom still have stresses about getting higher education. If they are not awarded one of the athletic scholarships, we ought to provide a safety net for them. When they're injured, many of them, the expenses fall on their families, as opposed to the country sharing a greater portion of those expenses, given the fact that they are ambassadors for the Bahamas. And then, of course, in Grand Bahama, there's a need to upgrade the facilities. I think a more than commendable job has been done in New Providence with the entire sporting complex. We must now do the same thing in Grand Bahama and those family islands that have centers of excellence. We must upgrade those facilities as well.
Okay, I mean, it certainly sounds like a lot on the agenda, but of course you are talking here about three major notions of what the public has come to love. Certainly sports over the years has brought us together, especially as we've welcomed so many international groupings here, and we've been able to come out in our red, blue, and our blue, gold, and black, and come out and really celebrate that. Are we hoping to create a kind of opportunity for our young people in sports in particular to be trained here without having to go abroad? Are we looking at extending the training facilities for athletes here as well?
Well, I don't think you want to entirely eliminate any overseas training. I mean, there's certainly benefits to that as well. But you certainly want to improve the infrastructure and all of the auxiliary services that can make our athletes, our elite athletes especially, feel comfortable spending a lot more time home carrying out their training. And so that's certainly a part of the agenda. One of the major planks of sports development has to be appropriate funding.
Okay.
In the act, for the National Sports Authority, you'd be aware that there is a sports fund. And so we're going to work with some of the board members that are in place, other creative minds that have expressed an interest in participating in the process at a national level, to populate that fund with a substantial amount of money to do the range of things we need to do in sports. Okay. And so that's going to be really one of the most exciting aspects of what we do. Funding is crucial for cultural development. Yeah. And that is developing culture first for us as a people, and then by extension sharing that with the international community. And funding is crucial, and so we're going to bring back the National Endowment for the Arts. Okay. So that cultural artists that are interested in producing a range of things, whether it's film, whether they're producing a book, whether they're producing an album, etc., that they can look to us as a partner. And in some cases it would be funding, in other cases it's providing the technical know-how in how to execute, how to produce your product, how to package it, how to successfully market it, and then of course how to successfully manage the funds you earn from it, so that when the greatest among us die, the community doesn't have to bury them, because their gifts made room for them.
Certainly, and I think that's how so many people feel about our culture. And we've got this budding social media sphere where so many young people are taking their video cameras, making short shows, making short clips. We saw it especially throughout this election, how powerful that independent group of young people could be. And so it's good to hear you talk about that endowment fund. Of course, Nassau got the distinction of being a cultural city several years ago, but we've not really seen much happen as a result of that distinction. In addition to ensuring that the funding is there and the technical capacity is there, are there any hopes of moving culture into its own separate ministry under the Free National Movement?
Well, the Prime Minister has indicated he thought that culture ought to be a stand-alone ministry, and so I won't preempt him in terms of what his timeline is for that happening. Okay. It may very well be the case that we are so effective within the present construct that he might decide that the desire to have it as a standalone ministry does not arise, because he can see the effectiveness of the department and that we're hitting those targets that he have in mind. And then of course, one of the realities we are facing right now is that the country is experiencing tremendous financial challenges. Certainly we believe that the resources of the country could have been better managed financially, and so we're obviously running into some constraints after conducting, or while in the process of conducting the audit, that I believe influenced his decision that this time around, given the financial state of the Treasury, that it might not be a practical thing to create an entirely new infrastructure. But I think this is really one of the few times, so I don't want to overstate it, but where you have a Prime Minister who's a man who is steeped in culture, and a minister with responsibility for culture who's a practitioner. And so I believe the expectations are high, and we don't mind the public being a bit impatient in terms of expecting some significant things to happen. And so we're going to put some pressure on ourselves in terms of, we believe that more Junkanoo groups ought to have, for example, their own space where they're able to construct what could double up as not only a place where they create costumes, but as a place where they attract tourists in order to showcase their talents and their creations. And so one of the things that we are focused on is how do we make that happen, and that's a big ticket item for us, this administration.
And for the last administration, they certainly received heavy criticism because some people felt that they didn't invest as much in Junkanoo as they should have, especially with the introduction of Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival. But we also know when that previous administration, let me rephrase that, we also know that when the organizers of the Junkanoo Carnival attempted to postpone the carnival, there was a certain backlash, giving the indication that there are some people who really bought into this notion of Junkanoo Carnival, especially independent entrepreneurs who finance these groups and were bringing people in from abroad, etc. Under your administration, are there plans to continue with the Junkanoo Carnival, or will that be revamped as well?
Well, examining the numbers, I mean, we certainly don't share the view that the original objective of putting heads in beds was accomplished. Okay. And particularly at the price point that the country was subjected to. And so we thought it was a misuse of scarce resources that could have very well gone to other areas that have tremendous need in the country, and could have a substantial portion of it could have gone to Junkanoo, which if you use the same template, if you offer, for example, substantial rewards for a Junkanoo song competition, you will get a similar amount of entries. So it was not so much in our minds the concept of carnival that drove the creativity. It was the infrastructure that was being created, and of course the carrots, the benefits at the end of the day. And so in our view, we've always said that any cultural offering, whether indigenous to the Bahamas or originating from overseas, the bottom line is subventions are what's important. First of all, any country that's interested in solidifying its national identity, in monetizing, that is, allowing income and employment to flow out of what they create. Any country that's interested in doing that, generating employment, producing income of their own creation, would first fund their own creations more than anything else. It becomes a mistake to fund something that certainly does not originate in your jurisdiction and has the potential to overshadow your signature product. And so the goal isn't to eliminate a gospel fest, a hip-hop fest, or a carnival. The goal is you subvent it, you provide a contribution to it, but you don't fund it as if it is your primary cultural representation.
Okay, all right, so we look forward to seeing what that policy will be in terms of culture and for the ministry itself as it develops. I've got to let you go, but before I do that, youth have always been near and dear to my heart. I had the pleasure of having the Director of Youth on several times and working with the ministry on the national youth policy that did pass under the former minister. You talked about taking existing programs, ensuring that they reach the people that really needed them in areas where we don't seem to be making as much of an impact. Any other thing that we can really look forward to you with in terms of youth? Because youth are our nation's greatest resource, and what they do in the future is going to be critical to ensuring the survival of this country and the excellence of this country. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think one of the things you touched on is the youth policy. From the time I was a consultant in the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, umpteen years ago, we've been trying to bring that into force. And so it is not yet fully in force, and that is something that is crucial, where you mainstream youth participation at all levels of the society and decision making. And then the final thing is that there is a need for us to stimulate micro, small, and medium-sized businesses. Young people can be pivotal in doing just that. And so there's a need to increase the funding. So the venture capital fund, as well as the youth enterprise grants that we will reintroduce, those two things will play a pivotal role in making sure we can create a number of businesses using our young people and their creativity.
Well, you're making me smile this morning, Minister. So I hope that will continue over the next 5 years. It certainly is an exciting time to have someone who is known as a cultural icon in this position, someone, of course, who has worked with young people over many years, again, in this position, and you've already been doing your thing as it pertains to sports. So we're looking forward to certainly a great 5 years from you and from your government, and hoping that you will continue to meet with us as you make advances and as you face challenges, so that we can educate the public on all that you're doing.
Well, thanks for inviting me to come on, and I represent a talented staff at the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, and I look forward to working with them, and we invite members of the public to partner with us. If we're going to transform this country, partnership is crucial and indispensable.
Certainly it will be, and you can always count on us here on Bahamas at Sunrise. You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We're bringing to you those with new, fresh ideas, of course, and we hope that you will stay tuned with us for more. We'll be right back after this.